I'll share my screen one moment, please. Please tell me if you can see it. Okay, great. So I would like to start from a couple of tips for productivity, because I know we face with a lot of markup. We needed to implement a layout of restaurant task, and I would like to remind you about Emmet. So this one line of code, when you press tab, would express this bunch of HTML. I will put all the links after this presentation and conversation in the Discord chat, and you will be able to go through it. So Emmet allows you to save a time of writing this navigation. Then we need 5 lists, for example, and we want to have a tag with some ID or ref. href equals section. We need sharp section and number of generated li index. And then we want some text, and press tab, and you get all markup with just one line. I think it is handy addition to your tool belt. So it is Emmet, and also I faced with indentation problem of my mentees, that they had in PRs inconsistent tabs, spaces, and etc. So I suppose that you can leverage your IDE or text editor, refactor, or format code. For me, it's WebStorm, and I'm able to set up it with HTML, some settings. Also, you can use one moment. Also, you can use Prettier. I think you got it on lecture. I will share the link also for this tool, and your code will be automatically adjusted and formatted in HTML, JavaScript, etc. So next point is HTML. When I reviewed PRs, I faced with several issues that mentees don't look at the specs at all. So I encourage you to consult always with HTML spec. So it is living standard. It will be updated every time. So it is living standard of HTML. And here you can consult with the documentation, what is tag, what tag means, why do we need it, what it represents. And I've seen that section was used as a div, just a wrapper to style it. So section represents some meaningful content which should has a header. So everything is really descriptive here. You can find almost everything, like not almost every tag that HTML has, and what its purpose. So for example, we had in layout task, we had some restaurant address, right? So there is an actually tag address for that. You can reference a link for that and additional text. And it explains the spec itself. It explains how to use it and how it will be understood by browser. So if it is in body, so it applies to the whole body, whole document. If you, for example, have landing page as we do with this restaurant, it is only one address. But if you have this preference, could you please mute yourself? I don't know. Can you make bigger fonts? Oh, sorry, didn't read the chat. You can speak up if you don't mind next time. Yeah, so spec is really useful because you can read about some text which will help you with making responsive design. Because for real websites we don't usually make some predefined widths, because we start from there is a mobile first approach. We start from mobile screen and then increase it using media queries and apply different styles for different screens. And for example, there is a really good demo. Actually, it was mentioned in Discord, really good article about picture, how to make responsive picture, how to work with pictures, with images itself. So it is just HTML, and we don't need any JavaScript for that. To make responsive images, to have different sources of images. This is important for landing pages as a restaurant has. So imagine if we open it from the browser, from the mobile device, we don't need to load some megabytes of information of the images. That's why we can leverage this picture tag, define a couple of sources, and the default source for image. And browser will help us to load appropriate image. As you can see here, it is different images, 3 different images without JavaScript, without additional code. We can make loading these appropriate resources for this website. Also, HTML has really cool feature as a map with areas, and for these apartments, it makes this green highlighting. So also, if you know HTML, you don't need much JavaScript. So it is just browser behavior when we describe areas in map, and it is related to canvas. So it explains, it helps browser to understand what should we highlight on hover. So it is for HTML. Yeah, let's go back to spec. Also, I've seen, for example, we had a block quote. We had text with these quote marks, and people did just p tag or spans or something like that. But actually, block code is appropriate tag for HTML to make it semantic. So browser will understand what is this, and screen readers will understand, will help person who can't see very well or even at all what is the content of actual page. Okay, do we have any map is also responsive? I don't know. Map is Juk. Let me switch and let's check. Yeah, so they didn't implement it because it was Canvas. It's hard-coded. We need hard-coded values. So I think we need additional logic for make it responsive. Yep. So also I had questions from mentees, not questions, but misunderstanding of specificity of selectors. So because of CSS, it's cascade style sheet. It is always pain to rewrite or make some additional styles for whole page or whole application, and we need to understand how it's calculated. So it is W3.org website and about calculation selector specificity. So here is an example, and you need to remember only these three letters, ABC, and how it's calculated. If you don't want to remember it, there is a really great site. I will share the link with you. So, for example, if you want to compare to understand really long selector, what has more weight from them. So you put two selectors and sort by specificity. It shows you what has more weight. So here is 1, 1, 2. Here is 0, 1, 2. So it is because of ID. It is has much more weight, as here described in the spec, that A has more priority. It is ID. Yep. No questions. So also there was no responsiveness, but I think for nowadays we need to implement only responsive web design. And I found a really good playground, cssplayground.com. It is for Flexbox. You can use here. You can change here almost every settings. You can change it. You can change markup and CSS. And here you have result with animated keyframes, the width of it. And then, and then you can play with settings of these three blocks. It is really helpful to understand how flexible is Flexbox, that you can work with it and place elements as you want and achieve your markup. So for example, for our let me go to templates. I already have templates. So for example, for our header with nav, we could implement. Actually, we don't need this now. Let me remove not needed code. And let's imagine that we have figure and picture and some image here. For now. And we want to display it like a Flexbox. We need also in the CSS there were no separate file for reset CSS, at least from my mentees. So we can reset CSS, either put the comments like that, or it's actually better to put it as a separate file. It would be better for you to, it is easier for you to change it and operate with it. So we need list style none. margins row. Yeah, so navigation is navigation by default flex direction is row, and we need to put UL is also display flex to make it in one row. And then we need to space between to put it aside to the, one moment, I will increase the size. Let's make our picture visible. Okay, picture doesn't have. I think we also need to remove it. Reset CSS. Apply reset CSS. Yeah, because figure has by default. So this is how can we leverage Flex to split content to the borders, let's say. And then we want to align them, align items on the one line. And then we can put some margins to display it, like to put spaces in between. And this pattern is repeated to the children. So these three simple rules can be applied to inner child, so children. And whenever, let me open this task. Yeah, so when we had this markup, you can start thinking about it separated to the blocks. So when you work on header, you think about, okay, we have header, here we have image, so we can split it from Flexbox perspective. We can make it space around, and then it will be one row. So then add some margins and additional margins here, but smaller one, and it will be aligned properly because of center, align items center. Then you will go to this block. So use decomposition approach when you look through the whole page, whole design. Whole design separated visually on blocks, and then you can work on one of them. So here we can see, okay, we have we have block, we have image, and we need some text, buttons, and separator. So we can align this block centrally, justify content and align items center, put this text, and it will be aligned properly. So this is also could be split into blocks. Here is 2 blocks, just space between, automatically display flex row, and it will be a column, and also justify content in center. So it will be with Flexbox. It's really easy to work with this kind of content if you transform it to blocks in your mind. So image, text, block, okay, inner block, here is empty. So this will be 50-50%. And again, display flex and flex direction row, and it will be position centered. Okay, it was. Why is better than display in line? One moment, please. I will read the chat. Okay, why it's better than display in line? First of all, display in line is a default property for span element, for example, and inline elements put by default one after another. Let's have 3 blocks, so 3 spans. First of all, you can't change it width, it's height, and you can't align them. Let's make wrapper for that. Put them here, and I will show you how can we change it. So for this div, if we put it display flex, we will be able to work with main axis and cross axis. We will be able to adjust it position from the horizontal line and vertical line. We can let's see it here. So we can explain that we can tell flex container that it should wrap. It should, yeah. For example, I don't want to wrap it. I want to have all elements on one line. I can say it go one after another. Imagine that reverse the order, for example. We can't justify content on center or make it space between, make additional gaps or space around borders and between elements. Flex is much more, has much more possibilities. It is highly configurable. You can also align, there is a property align content which explains how should these elements behave with empty line. So when empty line occurs, I want to have it space between. So this gap, I can say how it should behave whenever it's empty space. So I'm not sure how to compare it with inline. It is actually much more configurable display flex. Can can we avoid using UL in navigation? I mean, we can just use links, less code, same things. From semantic perspective, from outline of the document and document flow, if you consult with HTML spec itself, there is a semantic structure, and it actually moment. Yeah, spec is really huge. So there is a document outline. It shows the document structure, and when you want to create just 3 spans or 3 links, it's not okay to have them separately. We need to have them referenced to some content. It is actually a list of links, not just links. And not only you will see the same, but actually it will not be correct markup. From browser perspective, from semantic perspectives, from search engines perspective, and screen readers. Screen readers have possibility to read the outline of element of document, the not styles, but the structure of document itself. And it will help a person to understand that it is navigation. Okay, here we have image, and here we have list, first item in the list, and then it goes through the whole list. And they can navigate, okay, I'm interested in the third item in the list or the last item. And they can read the outline itself, the structure, without content. So they will read that it is header h1. Okay, this is main header in the element, and they will understand what the page is. So I would recommend always use proper structure of the element. So you unordered list with list item is recommended. So to move these objects around this side, we should use margin around the side. Andy, did you mean header example, navigation example?
Hi, it's Andy.
Hey.
Can you show the markup with the cook picture?
With the cook picture. One moment, please. Where is that? Yeah.
Oh, no. The homework, what was the restaurant layout?
Okay. Yes, there is.
Okay, so there's the picture with the cook. Oh, here. So in this left block, I was using the align items. No, justify content center.
Okay.
So it was vertically in one line. Yes, from up to down. It was in the one line, but this cook picture, we had to move it a little bit to the right. So what's the proper way to do it?
There is actually align self. I'm not sure if it is represented in this beautiful. Yeah, it is awesome. So if you can see green flex end, we can see here, right? Let's do it by ourselves. Align self. So let's imagine we want to have class to move. Great naming. And move. Align self. Let's start. UL display flex line self cross axis. UL D. One moment. Align self should be. Yeah, that's correct. Align self will work on flex item, and you can specify that you can move it to the flex end, flex start, and cross axis, make it straight, or move it somehow to needed proper not property, but so here is if it is column on main axis, on cross axis to the right, or space between, but I'm not sure why my example doesn't work. So UL should have, UL is flex.
What I was trying to ask is, for example, if I want to move this picture of this cook, for example, 50 pixels to the right, how should I do it? By adding margin, or is there other way?
If it's not, if it should be so specific, like 50 pixels margin, you can use margins or paddings. But if it is like start or end of the flex axis, it should be align self. Unfortunately, this.
I'm asking because I was moving these objects or these pictures by using mainly padding, but it's up to me. How do I do it, or is it a proper way to do it?
So for this specific case, if you have pixel perfect, if you want it really right here and you need specific dimension like 50 pixels, it's okay to have margin. I'm not sure about padding because padding adds to the content. It should be the margin actually to move it. But if it is this block would if this site would be responsive, and it should be responsive, I think it will be align self and space around. So it will add small space here from the content and put it in the middle. Not in the middle, but 50% of this container. So I think margin is okay for this particular task, but align self should work also for responsive markup. I will make it work after presentation and show you a snippet of the code, how it's different from whole flex items. It will move only one item. So right now, in nav, it is an align and item center. Okay. Okay, maybe because of this. Justify content center. Yeah, I think I will make it later. Let's move on. What is the better solution for restaurant in promo section? For image for section to put it as a background or figure tag. So for this particular task, if it is 1600 pixels wide without responsive, it was okay to make it background. But actually, for making it efficiently, make it responsive and efficient resource downloading, it is better to use picture. because browser will automatically download appropriate image. And if you have a lot of time, you can prepare like 10 of those images, different for 10 breakpoints, or I don't know, 15 breakpoints, as many as you want. But mainly it's used for 3 separate breakpoints, like mobile, tablet, and desktop. You put class in the closing tag. Is that proper use? I only started learning CSS. Sorry for that. Closing tag. Closing tag. Yeah, it will be on video. I am amazing. And it still doesn't work because. Yeah, because of different levels of flexboxes. We need to go deeper. Thank you for that. It might be in the low right corner, and at this point near the chat box, we probably just switched the view of the picture with the plate. I used transform. Oh, okay, it's a really good point to have transform and translate X. So another option to move this, we can actually transform it. So transform, translate. It is, let's imagine we need to put this logo 15. Transform, translate X, and it was moved to 20 pixels. But it is the case if we want to move it without any additional elements. But if we would have additional elements, we need a margin to have this space to rule the flow of document properly. But good point about transform. How do you put special in the menu on some dishes? It is kind of a border. Wait a moment. Something is wrong. This is kind of a border. Okay, you mean that it is more wide and it is thin? Let's check, maybe it's grouped. This section, content, ingredients, menu. So divider we have for divider. Usually designer can provide this. I can see right now this border. Maybe here it is. So you can use either background image or border if it's not like that thin. Sorry, it wants money from me. Okay, so what is the question about special? Are you talking about the special word with this block or the appropriate this thin border? Alexander, could you please reply? How I do it? So with this type of border, I would request this actual thin the image, but then we would have the problem with responsiveness. So I would split it to several images, and there is a property background repeat. This top border will be repeated, top and bottom will be repeated, and this is just border right, border left. So special as mentioned before, let's add some before element to the image. So usually, one moment, body. Yeah, so like that before, display block, position absolute, and then we move it to the appropriate place, and we can have border yep. Border plus word. Yeah, so on, thank you. In design, it's also not just color, but some background is also provided. And this is HR or just border, bottom border of this block. Also some useful HTML tag can be used for this. It is not just spans or P. It is from content perspective. It should be definition list and description. Let me find it. So let's consult again with specification and definition term and definition list. It is used for name value groups. So here we have, it is clearly name value. So here is the name of the dish. This is a recipe or just explanation what it is, and the price. And here in spec we have a couple of examples of it. So for example, definition list of authors and the names of authors and editor, and the frank is description, definition term and definition description. Also what types of languages do we have, and the description. It is also appropriate to combine them, wrapping with div. So we could use not divs, paragraph tags, or some other ways of making it, but using definition list, definition term would be name of the dish, and this is description, and this is description. By this, we combine all this information in one topic. So whole content will be combined for outline of the structure of the document. Position relative, yeah, it's actually a good point. By default, if it is not relative, it will be put on the top and the left, but it should be specified if you use combination of position relative and absolute to make it more appropriately. Yeah, stop it. Use padding to make this special border wider. Yes, for content, it's good idea to use paddings, so it will be increase. Yeah, so here would be definition list, and definition list itself would have padding, and between definition description we could have the border or some other part, maybe HR horizontal. Let's look at HR, maybe HR. Nope. HR element. Paragraph level thematic break. So not really appropriate usage in definition lists for now. For paragraph. Yep. Maybe some other questions? Overflow management. So yeah, for example, we had in a task. So do you want me to implement it or in the party number? So let's start from overflow. So usually in web applications or in markup, we have to think about overflowing of content. So there are languages that have really long words, and it doesn't depend on language. Actually, we can have more content that we expected from design. So there is a technique to have some content. So let's imagine we have P with lorem ipsum, and we want to have them have it only 3 lines. So we put we need to have height overflow hidden overflowed 50 pixels, for example, and let's have outline to understand which element we work with. Yes, so, there is technique text overflow ellipsis also. Text, one moment, text overflow. ellipses, but it should be one line. It is not for div, it should be for p. It works with one line. One moment. What is the best practice? For one lines, it is overflow ellipses or Chrome has, I don't remember actually what it's called. So for one or two, on several lines, we usually put 3 dots for with text overflow or overflow hidden. And on hover, we open this content to see actually whole content. For example, we have type ahead or some list of information in one lines. So we can hide it, put 3 dots for person to understand that it is cropped content, and on hover we can show all of the content that he or she is interested in. So usually overflow is used for smaller blocks and for smaller text content. But here, for example, I would use, if it's much more text would be added, I would use like show more button or something more appropriate than just hide it. Either gradient, transparent, half transparent gradient to show it that there is more content, or some chevron button to show it more. What is the party number? Damn it. The date and the party number. What is the difference between outline and border? Outline isn't calculated in the, doesn't add anything to dimensions of the element itself. So if we can see computed styles here of this image, it has outline. We can't see any additional dimensions here. But if I put, instead of image outline, I change it to border, it doesn't show it also. Yeah, so it shows one border. Let's change it to outline. Whoa, easy. And it doesn't add anything. So outline is usually is helpful for debugging something. So imagine you have web application like here, StackBlitz, stackblitz.com. It's a web application with a lot of interactive elements, changing responsive markup, etc., etc. So when you try to understand what you're actually changing and applying styles in DevTools, it's better to just select element. It is, for example, this button, make it outline, add some crazy outline, dashed purple, and you can see what element you're working on. Then you can add paddings and change something else, 20%. Yeah. So it is the difference between outline and border. No wrap. Yeah. This is the case that I forgot. White space, no wrap. Is the reservations in the reservation section? It moved a little bit. Denis Shepitsky, I didn't get the difference. So difference between outline and the border. Border adds itself in computed styles in box model of the element. So here you can see in computed styles box model margin, boarding, padding, and the content itself, the element width and height. So here we have outline added to the image. It is 1 pixel dashed, but you can't see it here. So it is actually only rendered like above the element. But if I add border to it, one moment, border to it, 2 pixels, solid gray. No. So now you can see border added 2 pixels. So now we have 102 pixels if we have box size in if we have box size in bordered box, we have 100 width and height. If we don't have, it will be 102. So it just adds additional 2 pixels to the content. Okay, great. Can we move to the reservation section, date and party number elements? Of course we can. So it was form, right? Party number. Okay, we are here. Should I proceed with some specifics? Reservation section and party number elements. So it was meant to be select. You should use form element. Usually we can, not usually, but always consult with spec, with form element, forms, yeah, form element. So with form element, everything, almost every input on your web page should be wrapped with form. So any form, even if you have name, like email and login form with only 2 inputs, it should be wrapped with form. There is actually a lot of information here. And these elements should be combined with label with for, with ID, as we can see in the example, that we can use label if it is if input is placed inside label, we can avoid binding them with ID and attribute for, because browser will, let me show better by example. So if we have for, if we have form, we have form input some 2 texts. So first we will have label. We will have label without for. and inside it will be input, and here we will put label below and for input 2. We'll add ID to it, the same ID as we had for input. Let's say its name, and here is email. So whenever I press label, which is below input, it's connected with input by ID. So input ID has input 2 and label has the same input. And by clicking, I'm focusing this element. Without, we can make it work the same without ID by putting input itself inside the label. So just wrap input with label and it will work the same. But if we want to separate them, so label will be somewhere in the not near input, let's say, we can't just wrap it. So you can leverage for an ID. Yes, also outline. This is actually not border, but outline can be changed. Or, yeah, border and outline focused using say the pseudo selector focused. Where is it? Orange. Yeah, so now we have orange outline, not default one. Default browser, it depends on the browser. Looks like that. Does the page have to be written the specific way after breaking the link to the CSS style? Is this the way to determine the quality of the HTML code visually? Wait a second. Are you talking about separate files? So when we reference to the like 4 or 5 different CSS files, I don't know how to read it. APU, APU. About quality of HTML. Quality of HTML, we have validators. If you have quality HTML without CSS. So we have HTML validators. Actually, if you are using WebStorm, it is actually showing you some, yeah, but it is Angular. I don't have any good example. Let's create something new. New HTML. So whenever I have, for example, some lead tag and I forgot to put closing tag, in this project it doesn't work. So there is a validator in WebStorm. You can use it on on file save or run it from the terminal. It will analyze correctness of the DOM structure. Also, there are HTML validators from W3C organization. You can use address, but for local development, we usually use add-ons or plugins for IDE or text editors. It will show you all problems. Also, Lighthouse is a good feature for checking your even local development. Whenever you serve your HTML page, it will be scanned. It will be scanned by Lighthouse and show you some problems. Yeah, so and in W3C is 75 from 100. Yep. Please bigger font. Okay, I will make it bigger font later. Same thing about mobile. Is there a good way to check mobile friendliness and responsiveness apart from Chrome DevTools? Read upper. What about browserness? How do you cope with it? Adding prefixes and at the end of the coding of prefixes on the go, or we don't do it? Okay, we have several. We do it on build process. So in our project and last 3 projects, we use Sass. Sass with CSS, SCSS actually, syntax of SCSS. It is preprocessor. We don't use pure CSS. And after building SCSS to Sass, we use autoprefixer module from npm. It's actually, yeah, you can use it online, but it is actually a good example. So grid doesn't work everywhere. You can consult with canIuse.com. Usually display grid, or just grid will be enough to show you that IE11 has partial support with prefix and several bugs. So for it, we can use MS, and it automatically adds it. So on build, when we build out our project, we use Sass and then autoprefixer, and it creates everything for us. Cool. Section reviews. There are different font family for text and quote, and there is only one quote. What is the correct solution? And mobile. Okay, I will move back to mobile after this. So if only one font family, unfortunately, you should download the font family for it. So you specify font family for 2 of them. So what is correct solution? I don't know if there are many solutions. If you need font family, you have to use it. And quote.
Can I say something? Sorry. Yeah. It's not about the font family. It's about, maybe I just heard something wrong, but you told that we should use backquotes or something.
Yes.
But it wasn't possible. for me. Maybe you can explain what.
For this one.
Yes,
right?
thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So we have some block quote. Here is Lauren. And for block quote itself, it doesn't edit the quotes. So actually it was a good point on the.
So we should use something else, not only back quotes, yes?
For back quotes, I was talking about semantic markup. This is crucial. You have to use it. For styling, it is CSS. You can use before and after. So after we use block quote, before we can use content and put here anything we want. Whoa, sorry. So here we have before and copy after. Now we have these quotes. Here in content, you can HTML. What's called HTML? Not ASCII, but signs, not signs, symbols. HTML codes, right? Symbols, codes, and you can take from ASCII or other. It can be image if you can't find the same, but before after is good solution. Yeah, so my main point was about block quote for HTML perspective. How you style it is a bit different topic. So from Alexander, responsive, yeah, how to check responsiveness apart from Chrome DevTools. I've read about one tool, but I think it is not free. I don't remember the name of it. It doesn't spring to my mind. Let's Google together, but from Google, not from DuckDuckGo. Ponzi website for different devices. And no, it doesn't here, but I can't see it here. Let me find it from bookmarks. I will get. Let me write it down. Yeah, so tool for responses. I'll back to you after this lecture. But usually I use DevTools because most of our web application is for desktop. How to implement the date input in the form. So this is really good question. So where is our? So I think you're asking that about input type date, but here we can see the date and on design, we have this placeholder date with asterisk, right? How to change it on focus, or what is the question? Okay. Wait a moment. Yeah, so we need to add either a bit of JavaScript or place it in line. Let's place it in line. So we need to change the type from when it is focused. We need to have, initially we need to have text. We need to have placeholder date. And on focus, we need to have this type to date. Will it work? Of course not, because date is not a string, is not defined. Yeah, on focus we changed it to the date, and on blur we need to make this type again initial one, text. So usually we don't work on abort, sorry, on blur. Usually we don't write inline JavaScript, but for these demo purposes, I put it. So whenever user navigates through your form, you need initially have text to have some meaningful placeholder, and then we can use this type of date. Is it clear, Alicia? Did I answer the question? Okay, let's wait. Let's proceed to the next question. Why is there only one quote mark? I thought it is a mistake and used opening and closing quote. I think it is mistake in the layout, in the design. Usually we have to have two quotes for sure. Yeah, I suppose it's just a mistake. Yeah, there is no element. Mm-hmm. Some more question. I can try to look on this. Yeah, it's a good question about different device. I saw a really cool tool, but don't remember what it's called. A really short name, and it runs from desktop, tablets, and different devices. And it is combined with your local environment, but unfortunately I don't remember right now. It is like $9 per month or something. Screenify, maybe this. Okay. Is it better to put our CSS to separate shorter files, or is it okay to put in one CSS? So I would suggest you to start using separate files because you need to get used to it. It would be better for you for later development. You will start to use bundlers, building tools, and you can separate your CSS for smaller files. You would be able to change it quickly. You'll be only in one context at a time. So for example, one file for reset CSS. Reset CSS could have, I don't know, like 20 lines, 50 lines, and it is okay to be a separate file. Later you will have for one page, for some separate components, utility, CSS. So it's a good idea to make it separate. Yeah. In the header section, how could we correctly style hover effect with border top? Okay. In the okay. So we have on hover to indicate that it is online. So let's use the decomposition approach once again. We have two elements. We have navigation, and let's think how can we implement it. So here we have background and no elements besides text. So we can create block of this height, put the text in the middle, and just on hover make border top 2 pixels, or outline to not create jumping content. So here we have a lot of really useful HTML, which we don't need, and then we need to move special, very special before. Yeah, so let's imagine we have these links, right? So it's it should be home. So UL link UL okay, so right now we want to have border top here. That's why I want to increase UL to 100% height of the parent element. It should leave me display flex. As usual with CSS, it doesn't work as expected, as you want. So navigation doesn't have it, and header doesn't have height. Navigation. Yeah, so we need to increase height of UL to the or Lee. One moment. No. So let me think a bit.
Yeah, Dennis, I can help you. Actually, I was going to join the discussion. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's Vadim over here. So I will continue answering the questions. Actually, to help Dennis, he has been holding strong for almost 1 hour and a half. So, in this case, usually you just use padding on the element because you want the whole element to be clickable, actually. Because not just one little part of the link, so user can easily click on it, right? And, basically, you should avoid using any height whenever it's possible. Just remember that whenever you don't really need the height, you don't use it. And it's better, as I said, to put it to the anchor itself, yeah, because then it will be easier to
make it
to click. Yeah, you should be always thinking about how users will interact with the page. So it should be useful for them. For example, on mobile device, it's hard if your fingers are small to put them in the right place, or even big.
And the difference between outline, we can't make separate parts of outline, like border. We have border top, but outline only one rectangle.
Yeah, so in order for it not to jump on hover, you will have to create a transparent border on the rest of the elements, for example, and change it on the header. Okay, yeah, let me help you with the next question. Is it good practice to use variables in CSS, define colors and dimensions? What's the most often put into variables? Yes, it's definitely great practice, but you should be careful with support in the browser. So whenever you use some fancy features, make sure to check how it works in the other browsers with CanIUse. To the variables, we put, of course, only colors and a lot of other things. Whenever we reuse some values or units in CSS, some typography values, we put them to variables. So we use the same variables all over the place. And I would also kindly ask you to tell me if you have any questions related to the organization. Let's first wrap with the last home exercises. Yeah, so do you have any questions still left about the home tasks of the previous ones? It looks like not really.
You can ask me later in Discord, in questions channel.
A good practice. So let me make a quick introduction. So first of all, thank you, Denis, a lot. It was very useful. Thanks for spending your time and showing us some fancy tools and answering the questions. You should always remember there are plenty of solutions for each of your problems. So that's why we have the mentor day before, after the actual home task, because you see, Denis Googled himself quite a few things because he's basically not a machine, a human being, and he doesn't remember a lot. So whenever you try to implement it yourself, you have to find the solution. You have to analyze a couple of them. That's why we use this approach. So mentor analyzes mistakes which are common in your pull request and makes suggestions, or maybe you had challenges to solve something. I would like to also remind you about the pre-screening, and unfortunately we understand that REST application is still not perfect and will never be. Of course, we do want it to be one source of the truth for all of you to use, and later it will have some notifications and a better schedule. But as you might know, we need to put significant efforts to its development, and we don't have any resources basically, because these are just volunteer mostly, and that's why for now we use this approach with separate channels, let's say, where you have to check the schedule in one place, and you get confused a bit. We understand that it can be improved, of course, but maybe when you will qualify after this course, you will be able to help us in the development. And yeah, so this is it. I think I also noticed a lot of you don't use Discord or don't look to the notifications and announcements there. Actually, it's pity stuff because, as I said, we don't have internal notifications implemented. It's quite a big chunk of work. that's why we have to have a way to communicate to you. Yeah, so this is the place where the communication happens for now. That's why if you haven't been there and you have just heard of it, it's a pity because we repeated it many times all over, and the most crucial information was there. So if there are any of you who hasn't used it yet, please join, because you might it might not come to your attention that we are having technical pre-screenings which have supposed to be finished today. So today was the deadline. So to make it happen, you should have contacted your mentor yourself, because if you don't do that, we actually need people who can find right information in the Google if they don't have it, and actually contact mentors themselves if they have to. Yeah, and this is simple. Otherwise, mentors just don't spend their time looking for you in your communication channels. Yes, so it's your business to get some help and evaluate your knowledge. So all of those who have already had technical pre-screenings, this is really great. Good job. Actually, a lot of you passed it surprisingly well. And those who were not able to pass due to some lack of knowledge or maybe English limitations, so we treat every student in a different way. So if you are active and you solve exercises and basically want to learn, but you don't have knowledge enough at the moment, you can continue visiting lectures, you can solve the tasks, communicate in Discord, but most likely your work will not be reviewed by real mentors. So please take this to account. Of course, if you don't do anything and didn't submit tasks in time and didn't pass technical pre-screening, feel not offended if we will expel you. Yeah, the same goes to the people who didn't contact their mentors. Actually, if you knew about that and you didn't contact the mentors, it's a big problem because you took somebody else's place. That's why most likely we will have to expel you from the course, because we mentioned that millions of times. And this the most asked questions also. The pull requests, if you still haven't got the mentor or you have the interview scheduled a bit later than today, don't worry, because as soon as you will have the mentor, then you will your pull request will be reviewed, and so basically you will get the scores after this review by mentor. If you still haven't got mentor because of this course, or because you don't live in Poland or things like that, or you were evaluated by a mentor and he put you a good score but wasn't able to pick you up as his student because he has already got more than he can handle. This happens because mentors have more interviews than actual students, because a lot of students don't contact mentors, so they will be expelled. And a lot of students pass these interviews, but unfortunately some don't by some reason. So in this case, if you were a good student, but the mentor wasn't able to take you, he puts you a good score. So this means that you will get mentor a bit later when we will finish these evaluations for the rest of the students, and we will see how many resources we have freed, right? So looking right now to the situation, as many of you who are on the call are actually active students, thank you a lot, but a lot of people has already stopped participating in the course, or by some other reasons cannot continue, so this number will be significantly dropping. That's why if you haven't got a mentor still, don't worry, you will get it quite soon, most likely. But of course, we don't guarantee it. yeah, I think these are the most asked questions, most frequently asked. So we'll be happy to answer any other. Okay, I'm reading. So if we have a mentor in the school app assigned after passing the technical pre-screening, that means we are set, or the mentor will be changed later. Yes, if the mentor actually, mentor has 4 options. He can either say that I'm picking you up, you're a great student, I liked you after the pre-screen, so he automatically becomes your mentor. Second option he has is to say that I can't handle you anymore, but I liked you, basically. That's why you are getting to this pool, which I told about, and you will be able to continue as soon as any of the mentors will be released by some reason. And there are, believe me, mentors being released every day because a lot of students, by some reason, do not proceed. And he has also options, put you a negative mark, evaluate your English level. So if it doesn't match at all our criteria and he sees that you have to study a little bit more to continue the course, he has an option to mark that in the app. So we will know that in this case, unfortunately, most likely, we won't assign a mentor for you in this course until you will get the initial knowledge which were required and were communicated a couple of times. This month there is only one more task. Yes, that's correct, I believe. You will see all the tasks in the app all the time. Sometimes we'll be adding more tasks for you, which are not mandatory, and so they will have lower coefficient, and this will help you to get more experience and get more points. But if you have limited time, of course, you can skip these tasks. And yeah, important thing which many of you didn't notice, or I don't know, you just don't read our announcements by some reason. So when I go to some task, I can see this recipes folder, how I should name my branch basically, and how I should name the folder where I put the stuff. So please do not never merge anything to master. Well, you can merge it if mentor approved and forgot to do that, or you want to do additional changes, but do not merge to master anything before a mentor reviews it. Whatever city you are or country, because if we'll become like having more and more mentors released, we'll be able to also help you with review, even though you are from different country or city, but just in a bit lower priority. So yeah, do not merge this stuff to master, please. What do you mean the score doesn't replicate? Isn't replicate in the table? Okay, so this is, I believe, is because RSApp is a bit, as you know, not the best user friendliness in the world at the moment, because there were no designers working on it. We are adding features on the go. It's in active development. If you will go to GitHub, you can actually find it here. Let's find it. It's cool. There's cool GitHub. All right. Oh no, I need to look for the app. Otherwise, you can see actually here you might have access or might not to a few repositories of your colleague studios. This will happen maybe when we will have cross checks available. As soon as we will have those cross checks, you will be the first to know about it. But yeah, let me finish GitHub app. And where is it? Oh my gosh. This is the docs. Sorry for that. I was always looking at it like that. There is up, GitHub.
Maybe let's do it after answering.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure that I'm showing one important thing. All right, yeah, forget about it. Anyway, before it has been shown, and there you can find issues, first of all, so it's the first place where you could go and help us report bugs or something doesn't work or whatever else. So also you can check all the code, of course, if you are interested in how it's done. And you can submit pull requests later if you can improve something. But the important thing is that it's available there, so bug issues should go there. But in the case of the question, so we have the technical screening tab where some people get scores for the interview. So the score here will appear only if after you actually got the mentor. And as soon as you will have the mentor, so this means basically he provided a feedback for you in special form of his and evaluated your knowledge in English and stuff like that. He will be able and taking you as his student. After that, he will be able to put you a score here. Yeah. So in case that you passed interview successfully, but the mentor didn't pick you up, this score will be put a bit later just by another mentor. So don't worry about that. If no mentor will pick you, probably, unfortunately, you won't be getting scores and for the tasks which are not checked automatically before you will actually get the mentor who will be able to put them. But in the case that you got a negative score, like which means you completely cannot basically communicate about the basic topics which were already presented on this course or were requested as the entrance barrier. So then unfortunately maybe this course will be only added for automatic tasks, but you can continue doing other as well. You know, I don't share any. Oh, actually, I should have to. Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah. Too many calls for today. What the cross checks will be about. So the cross check, if I understood probably what you mean, is the additional interview which will help you to practice your interview skills. Yeah? So it will be most likely with your mentor later, which will check how you go and maybe have questions from the previous lectures. Okay. Wait a second, I'll go back because I see I missed a couple of questions. So, Olen, I hope I asked your question regarding the score, because probably mentor, you know, mentors are people, you cannot push them. Please give them some time to review your work because they are all busy full-time. They help you in their free time for free, just to share knowledge with people who need it. That's why please give them some time. If they don't put your scores, if they don't review your pull requests, don't be too nasty. They remember, but just probably don't have time. They will do it a bit later, yeah. Okay, I think this is it. What's next? A few words about future tasks and its work. All topics be checked by mentor in the future. So There are tasks which will be automatic still. Some of them will be added. We add them on the go, as we see that some people are really working hard, as you can see, and doing all the tasks with high scores. So we add a lot of new tasks for these people. And regarding all other tasks, if you have a mentor assigned, he will be checking them in your pull requests, which require manual check. Also, there will be, as I said, cross checks between you, but a bit later. Yeah, cross checks will be run by our beloved RS activists, who will help you to review each other tasks between yourselves. Which doesn't require really a mentor knowledge, so you will help mentors basically and learn how to review other people's work and see how other people do stuff. Whether they have to be merged or not, not necessarily. You can leave them if you want to make some changes in the future. Let's say after today's lecture, Denis showed you a lot of interesting techniques and topics and also tools, so you can actually get back and improve it a little bit with your new knowledge, commit your changes and merge to master. Or you can merge to master and commit your changes later with the pull requests to this new branch. But don't merge it yourself to master before Mentor approved it.
And I can explain why we had this problem with my mentee. So he merged his pull request that I requested some changes, and he merged it instead of changing it. And after that, I had like to show him line and to specify a line and my comment to it in Discord chat. So it's really hard to reference the appropriate place in the file and review it and make some comments on it without PR, actual PR.
Yeah, so if you will be submitting things not in time, if you don't follow the recommendations and merge yourself, then you have to somehow change it. So it will be not an easy task if you have never done it, how to do it proper. You will have to do some bad techniques. You may also lose your history, create additional problems for mentor, and yeah, so, and we never ever merge anything to master in our daily job, kind of ourselves, without review as well. So you're not alone with that. Yeah, kind reminder about gratitude channel. It's important that you show some respect and love to your students, fellow students who helps you, or maybe a mentor is active helping you out, or somebody else within the course or a lecturer. Please put these gratitudes there, because after that it will be also helpful for all of us. Yeah, one or the other way for each of the roles in this school. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. If you have any, remember you can ask them in Discord questions channel or in the related channels to the tasks. And it was great to talk to you. Thank you, Denis, again. And
thank you very much. And have a nice evening.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.